says that the meeting is streaming. Not sure if we're recording.
It's recording.
And
Wait.
you're muted. And you're muted as well. Oh,
Well, I muted myself because of this ongoing problem with
And Tim is
popping
listed as Nate.
Yeah, I will try to fix that. But welcome to our weekly outreach meeting. As I mentioned before we started recording, if anybody doesn't want to be recorded, please turn yourself off. So this meeting is being recorded and will be on YouTube available afterwards. Let's just start with their introductions and then we'll get into the meeting. I'm Tim Erickson. I am coming to you from Deerwood, Minnesota. St. Paul Tim is my username on the site. And I just got my first COVID vaccine today. So I'm happy about that. Jack, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, all. I'm Jack Aponte. Pronouns are they and them. I am part of Palante in the PMC here, and I am in Oakland. And my first vaccine is scheduled for Saturday, so I'm very excited.
So I'll go next. So my name is Greg. I'm usually in Australia, but due to COVID situation now, I'm back home at Greece. Joining again just to keep in touch with the outreach. No vaccines. Sarvasri.
Okay, my name is Sarvasri, and I'm working on the ultimate beginner's guide to backdrop. And I didn't get a vaccine because the survival rate is 99.97, and I don't think the vaccines are even that good. So I'm skipping vaccines.
Okay. So I have the agenda open, and I want to, if anybody's looking at the agenda, they'll notice I put a link to a Miro board at the top. The Miro board is similar to the mural board that we experimented with at Backdrop Live, and it's just a whiteboard. And I thought it might be useful if anybody wants to take a look at it today. Actually, let me go ahead and share my screen for a minute. So I'm sharing my screen, and
actually, sorry, Tim, can you also share the agenda, the link to the agenda?
You want to? Well, I can't share them at the same time. The link.
No, share it. I mean, share it in Zulip so that I. And you're muted now, unfortunately.
Okay. Moving this Zoom bar around so that I can get to things, I accidentally mute myself. I thought, Gregory, when you posted the link, I assumed you posted the agenda as well. So I will get it right now. There we go. So going back to the mural board, I would like to see if we can't do some things to make these meetings, these outreach meetings in particular, be a little more effective and efficient in terms of following up and getting things done. And I thought that a mural board could be something, and it's just an experiment now for a while, where we could track some of the ongoing things we're doing in a little bit better and more visual way. And I think this could be helpful. I welcome input on this, and let's just consider it an experiment for a few weeks, and we can see if it's helpful. I don't plan for this to replace the agenda at this point. I could see that possibly in the future, but maybe not today. But it's a place we can sort of track things like blog posts, these things that we have been talking about in our agenda anyways on a weekly basis. But a mural board, something like this actually. So we experimented with a tool called mural boards at Backdrop Live, and afterwards for MidCamp, they used this Miro board, and I took a look at it and I like it better. So that's why I thought I'd try that. where it in particular could be handy, I think, is in tracking things like blog posts. I want to comment that I have found there is a link, a content strategy link in the backdrop.org issue queue that includes a big graphic. Luke actually has it as a background screen, or like the background on his desktop. And it has a whole bunch of content ideas for backdrop. And this must be something that was done a couple of years ago. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was using either Miro or Mural at the time. So
sorry, Tim, where is that? Where is that?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It just popped into my head that I've seen that before.
No, I mean, was it on the main site or somewhere, or?
In the backdrop.org issue queue, there is an issue about content for the blog. And in that issue is a screenshot or a JPEG or of a screenshot of a board like this. And I frequently see it on Luke's desktop when he's sharing his screen. I can try and look that up afterwards, but the Miro board that I'm sharing, anybody should be able to edit. It might take a little bit of getting used to, but for example, blog posts, if we have ideas, just posting them here could be helpful to me. And it's something anybody, this Miro board would stay consistent over time. So anybody could update this at any time, could come here and add ideas if they have them. So I have some very generic ideas, right? Like categories of things. I put down things that we tend to tweet about. If anybody has any specific ideas right now, the Twitter, our social media stream has been a little bit quiet in the last week. So if anybody right now would be a good time if you have anything that we should be tweeting about or Facebooking or whatever. Let me know, or use the Miro board, or just post something in Zulip if you have any ideas. Blog posts. So again, I think with blog posts, I thought about having getting something in. Having a list of blog posts that are actively being worked on, and maybe working a little hard. What we, since I've been on the coming to these meetings, we frequently sort of assign blog posts to people, but I don't know that or people volunteer to do them, and then oftentimes they don't happen, and we don't really, follow up with the schedule too rigidly. And I'd like to start putting myself down, on a map, and hopefully you guys bugging me a little bit if I've agreed to do a blog post and haven't. Right now, I think the big one I want to do is on a Backdrop Live, a follow-up on Backdrop Live.
So where are these blog posts being posted?
On the Backdrop blog. We have a blog.
Backdrop CMS blog?
Whoops.
Yeah.
Actually, it's /news, but I'm tempted to add a redirect from blog to news right now, since we always talk about it as the blog.
Well, and it's labeled as a blog here under news. So
yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it should be. But yes, it is currently backdropcms.org. If there is no .blog, that would probably be a great idea, Jack.
Or /blog. Yeah, I'll just create the redirect for now at least, and we can switch it around later.
Right. Yeah, I think it's fine to leave it the final destination the way it is, but at least if somebody types that, it takes them where they want to go. Does anybody else have any? So I'm going to put myself down for this. Does anybody else have any other ideas, things that we could or should be blogging about right now? Whether or not you're willing to do it.
So we have the PMC meeting soon, so there's going to be that as well.
Yes.
And I think we have, not a policy, but sort of like a plan that we don't schedule a lot of blogs at the same time. So I think one each week or something like that is the plan, or the goal.
Right. So this came up recently. Somebody wanted to post a blog, and I think we all sort of acknowledge that there's no official policy like that we have to spread them out, but I think we have had a goal to do like one a week. So if a blog post, if there's already been a blog post in 1 week and you do another one that isn't urgent, it's nice to save it to the next week. But there isn't any requirement for that. I think when Peter wrote his blog, he asked about that, and the general consensus was, that you can post blog posts anytime, but to the extent that we're able to spread them out, that's nice. So I think the PMC needs to talk about this, but I think providing a little more updates on what the PMC is doing would be a great idea. I'm going to not schedule that right now because we need to talk about it as the PMC, but I think it should at least be on the idea pool.
The reason why I mentioned it is if we are spreading things out, we'll have something to blog about after next week. Yes, that's where I was getting at.
Sure. Anything else for the blog right now? Any other big decisions we make would go there.
I'm going to copy an issue into Zulip where this might be the issue of the different blog post ideas. Apparently in 2016, I volunteered to write something on Backdrop and CiviCRM, but I don't think I ever did. I think it would be good for us to write, maybe especially since we're planning to use Civi, maybe from that perspective, once we get that sorted out, maybe a post about, both that we are using the CRM ourselves and also about the integration.
Right, and we have a meeting next week about that?
Maybe in 2 weeks, or
maybe 2 weeks, okay.
I think it might be in 2 weeks, April 13th.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. So anyways, we do have an upcoming meeting about that. So it's definitely something, an idea that should at least be in the pool. Are you ready to put that to volunteer and put that on the agenda?
Unfortunately, no, since I think I'm facilitating that meeting, I should probably focus on that first. Sure. But then maybe after it happens or during the meeting, we can see if anyone feels like writing it.
That makes sense. And I'm still getting used to this, but there's a way to add notes to these that's a little smaller. Go ahead.
Do you log anything about the code of conduct? It finally, it's not on any actual release, right? But it's been included in the code. And
I think, yeah. Well, just a link has been, but I don't think we ever did do a blog post on it when we approved it. So
we need to actually decide how we link to it from the actual website, because I don't think it's on the website. So once it's on the website, maybe we should announce it via blog post. Sure.
I think so.
Do we already have an issue open about getting the COC on the website specifically, or no, I know it's been mentioned, but I don't know if there's an issue so that it actually happens.
I'm going to check now, but I think it's just a comment on one of the existing issues, not a specific to that. Yeah. Sort of like a subtask. I'll check real quick.
I think that sounds right to me.
Yeah. If oh, sorry, go for it.
I want to mention that the meetings listed under cms.org in the news, the recurring meetings, it doesn't tell you how to get to them. It says for detailed information, go to the calendar. You go to the calendar and it's not there either. Fortnightly community outreach meeting. How you go to the meeting is not there.
Right. So Vashri, one of the issues we face about that is the potential for Zoom bombing, or people to sort of jump into our meetings and disrupt them, which is why it's generally recommended that you not sort of just have a link to your Zoom meeting. I think that's why we don't just have a link here on the website, to avoid people disrupting the meeting. But we do, on the other hand, want to make it accessible. So I love any ideas on how to balance those two.
I think that the fact that we mentioned something that just shortly before the meetings we do a Twitter announcement or something like that. So maybe we can tell people, because
Well, right. The problem, of course, is that we don't often do that. So it's really not helpful to tell people to watch for a Twitter announcement unless we're going to be guaranteed. Well, and also Twitter doesn't tell you, we don't want to tweet the link to the meeting, because that's too public.
I will flag that. So on that page, let's see. When I look at news and announcements and then go to click on see full meeting schedule and other resources, it takes me to the resources support/resources page. And under community meetings, the link is there, the
Okay.
Zoom link. So it's not on this one, but if you go to backdropcms.org/support/resources or go to the resources page there, the Zoom link, the bit.ly link for it is down. If you go all the way down to community meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you want me to edit that and remove it right now? Give it.
Yeah, at least, but if it's there, it's open to the public.
well, to be absolutely clear, Sarvashri, the meetings are open to the public, but the point is not to overly publicize the link so that people who are just looking to be disruptive can pop up.
Okay.
And so one of the things that people do is they change their link every meeting and then distribute it to avoid that. We don't want to do that. That makes it too hard. We used to actually put the link out on Twitter, but a number of organizations have experienced trouble when they've done that.
Yeah, this is good. I just don't know where I can find it.
Well,
I put it in my calendar now, in the notes of my calendar, so I can find it. I was searching through all of the Zulip listings. I found it in Zulip.
That's what I usually do, just to cut and paste it, is I just go back through Zulip and find it. Jack is suggesting that maybe we don't even want it here, and I suggested that as well. I'm kind of on the fence because this is a little bit hard to find. It's not like posting it on social media, but I don't know. Do we? Yeah.
But do we want to invite specific people to come to the meeting?
Well, we can't. That's a very, very broad question. Like, I don't know who you mean or what. We certainly could do that, but.
Well, it depends on what we're trying to do. You had mentioned inviting Joe to come to the meeting.
Yes. I mean, yes. We can definitely invite specific people to come to meetings. And we have on occasion done that, but it's not something we're normally, I would say we're not normally organized enough to do. Our agenda has been kind of fluid, and it only makes sense to do that if we have kind of a set agenda item that we know we're going to talk about. Then we can invite specific people. And I am open to doing a little bit more of that, to like planning a specific topic for a specific meeting, and then inviting people who might be interested in that specific topic. Does that make sense? So, Jack, what do you think about the link on the page? Should we?
Since it's I think it's a bit of a free for all in terms of how we edit this stuff anyhow. So I'm going to go ahead, and since it's kind of consistently we want to avoid Zoom bombing, so we want to limit where the link is, I'm going to remove it and replace it with check out the Zulip chat room to get the link to join. So that puts a bit of a barrier to people who would want to Zoom bomb. They could still come to the Zulip and ask there, but yeah, that's what I'll do.
Well, where it is right now, it hasn't caused any Zoom bombing.
Well, there's a question of whether we wait till it happens, Sarvashri, or we take reasonable precautions. So it didn't cause any problems in Twitter either, but other organizations have had them. So we decided we were going to quit putting it in Twitter. I think we should continue to talk about this, and we need to come up with a good solution. I think a better solution to make it easier for people to find it. And clearly this wasn't it, Sarvashri, because you were already having problems. So yeah, I don't know what more to say.
Yeah, I didn't save the link. I thought I could find it easy.
Well, I mean, yeah, I recommend that people, try bookmarking. It would be a good solution.
Yeah, bookmarking it is definitely the way to go because it stays the same every week. So if you
Right.
bookmark it in your browser, then you can just click it and get there without even having to go to another web page.
I mean, it also is in the agenda, and if you've been to a previous agenda, you can go to any one of our meeting agendas and find the link. So that's another good place to find it. And I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I know. But finding, there are some ongoing issues about this. Finding things in our network of resources is often confusing for new users. And I believe that is a problem that we need to gradually work on and figure out how to make it easier for newcomers. The problem is we just have a lot of stuff and a lot of different ways to organize it. So I don't know an easy solution.
Maybe we could make it public, but have them click on something to ask to come to the meeting.
Well, that is another possibility. On the other hand, frequently, then a host has to be here before people can start meeting. And we've also found that to be not ideal because sometimes people just show up before the meeting and they start to talk and communicate. And we like to encourage that. Otherwise, everybody just sits in their waiting room until either Jen or I or Nate show up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what we have is working for the time being.
Sure. Okay. Are there? So I'm sharing my screen here, and we have gotten feedback in the past that makes it hard to follow the specific voices who are talking. So I don't know if it's better for me to keep sharing and with that problem, or if I should quit sharing and we just.
This blog post idea, is this blog for Backdrop generally or for this outreach meeting?
This is for anything Backdrop related. So it could be, these could be tutorials, they could be outreach things, certainly something about documentation at some point. This is just kind of ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and put this, or the video project. At the point at which we're actually working on this video project, Sarvashri, we actually have a concrete plan, we should blog about it.
Okay. I did some work on that this past week.
Right, and I did too. Let's talk about that in a minute. But right now we're just talking about any other blog post ideas. Okay, I will again. We have a couple of these that could be in the queue pretty quickly, but after the PMC meeting tomorrow, I'm going to leave the backdrop one on the agenda for now. On our regular newsletter or agenda, we have newsletter. We had a newsletter go out this week. That's the third in a row. Congratulations and thank you to Peter. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for now. We have, so I don't know. It's going to be another month before we do the next newsletter. I would say in 2 weeks, we should talk a little bit about content for that next newsletter. But if nobody has anything to say about that right now, I think we can move on. Event stuff. Is generic. We do have, we talked I think at our last meeting about the next Backdrop Live is right now tentatively scheduled for, I believe, July 11th. It's the only event, public event we have scheduled. I would like to get some virtual user groups scheduled as well. But for Backdrop Live, we talked in our last meeting about whether or not to start using these meetings more actively or how to start organizing sooner for Backdrop Live. Unfortunately, I think. Go ahead.
I posted a link to these events that are happening. One of them that drew my attention. It doesn't seem to have any subscription or fee tied to it. Is the CMS Africa, Developers for Africa. It seems to be open. It's just generic. It's about any CMS, and they already seem to have WordPress, Joomla, Typo3, Drupal, and other CMSs are welcome. I'll post a link again in the outreach thing on Zulip. So yeah, I was thinking that we're in the same geographical latitude as Europe, so it might be more convenient for people from Europe to sort of like do something. It won't affect them, like they won't be during the night, you know, would be convenient time-wise. So I'm thinking to suggest a session on Backdrop.
Yes, you found that on that like Drupal festival calendar, right?
Yes.
Is that okay? But it's a CMS in general event.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be a good idea to see if we could participate somehow.
Yeah, and my other motivation is, besides the generic sort of like outreach motivation, is that we don't seem to have any members in our community from Africa, or that I know of. So it would be good to reach out to that group as well.
We do have one or two people who sort of pop up that I have interacted with on Twitter about Backdrop, and
I wasn't aware.
yeah, well, I don't think they've ever made any of our meetings. They did register for and tried to attend the first Backdrop Live, but I have a hunch they might have had technical issues. So there is at least one guy down in I think Zambia who is, you know, marginally, or it has been involved a little bit, and I forget the name.
But yeah, this seems to be a generic like cmsafrica.org thing. It might be good to just keep an eye on this side, and like if they have events, attend them, especially for free.
I think sort of generic open source CMS events are something we should always try to participate in. But yeah, definitely, if there's something happening in Africa, that's someplace where
I have an idea.
We're not well represented. So
I have an idea. I just did a search for choosing a CMS, and there's lots of blog posts and videos. People have made different things there, for which probably they have comments open, and we can go and post comments to all of those places where people are looking at choosing a CMS, and direct them to come to the Backdrop page and check it out.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that Matthias and others, sorry, are already doing something like that. Like they did a more specific search, as in Drupal 7 alternatives or Drupal alternatives, and then they started, you know, going to sites that do comparison between CMS or any other software. And they added a sort of like an entry for Backdrop, and then people went and added some comments.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good idea.
I think that could be very effective. You know, in general, choosing a CMS, generally, they're going to be open for ideas.
Yep.
And so posting on that. So maybe Matthias could do that search and do outreach that way.
Zach, you raised your hand?
Yeah, I wanted to get back to the Backdrop Live thing that Tim mentioned, because so I know other smaller events might happen in the meantime, but just to save, I mean, Tim, you did so much of the work on this last Backdrop Live. I know some other folks participated too, but you and Jen did like the vast majority of it. So since we've got it scheduled, starting the planning of that, at least like knowing who's going to hold what, like figuring out what the next steps are, what roles are needed, who's going to fill them. Seems like we're going to want to do that, like if not at this outreach meeting, like by the next outreach meeting. I would suggest starting a plan, just so that it doesn't get down to like 1 or 2 months, you know, and we have to figure it all out then. That'll also help us recruit other folks to divide up the roles, so like you don't have to do everything. You can,
Yeah, I think like our first thing is to decide what are the different tasks that we could sort of divide up. To me, one of our biggest needs I feel like one of our biggest needs is to get people to sort of take responsibility for other regions, for doing outreach and programming in like the European or Asian time zones. It's hard for one person to do that. And if we don't have people actively engaged in Europe and say Australia, it's hard to schedule stuff. So
yeah.
But
I would also like to add that with each live, with each live that we do, we have more material that can be reused, or we should be documenting things. We do have a dedicated repo, and what we used to do is with processes, like I think we have a dedicated repo for procedures, like when creating releases and so on. But having a dedicated site now, it's like a good resource. Like we don't have to recreate everything. So yeah, the more we improve that, the more we add documentation, the easier it will be for others to sort of like jump in and help in the future.
Yes. I think we should just plan on having Backdrop Live as a standing item on the agenda. And it's the challenge we're going to face is not spending too much time in every meeting on this. And again, what I said before, I think we could have a separate meeting for this, but only at the stage at which we have sufficient people that it's useful to, we don't want to schedule an extra meeting if we don't need to. Maybe as we get closer to the event, that will become important. If I get this blog post done before our next meeting, I think that will help. And in fact, maybe even part of that blog post is like notes about what we want to do differently or how to improve the process next time. So yeah, let's keep this on the agenda. I don't know if there's anything else to take away from today. I will try in preparation for the next outreach meeting to have a list of my own thoughts on like what the various tasks are, so that we can talk about them and maybe people can step up and volunteer.
Where did you post this Miro board?
There's a link to it in the agenda. I'll put a link in Zulip right now as well. Just a second.
In meetings, weekly meetings?
Yeah, in the weekly meetings I haven't done it yet. I'm about to do it. It's at the top of the agenda, or I want to get to, Sarvashri has been doing some work on this document or video stuff. So I want to come back to make sure we have time for that. The one other thing though is, I think it came up in Zulip over the last 2 weeks that a lot of our outreach is targeted at developers that are active in the community. And I forget the name, but for Mustard Seed, he mentioned that
Robert,
that they thought we should be doing more outreach just to users. And I think our virtual user group is probably one of the strongest things that we do that's really just targeted at users. I try to avoid like getting into core conversation discussions we talk a little bit about it, but it's focused on how to use Backdrop. And I think it's a really valuable outreach tool. We have done them sort of sporadically. I did a couple of, very often right now, they're inspired by me wanting to learn about something. So I say, I'm going to organize a virtual user group and find somebody to teach me about it. Right now, I'm sort of like not sure what the next topics would be. If anybody has any quick topic ideas, things they'd like to see in a virtual user group, tell me now. Otherwise, I will make up some. Go ahead.
How to use views.
How to use views. That is probably a great idea. It is a great idea. It's not probably, it is a great idea. I'm going to put that down, and that might be our next one. Anything else before we move on to videos? Okay.
I would like to go back to what you just said about the target audience for outreach and the thing that it was mentioned that this is coming as an experience sort of like from a user which said that they felt as if there was some pressure on them to, like, if they come into the community that they need to contribute in some way. And they expressed the opinion that, you know what, I'm one of the users, which is a big group, not in just Backdrop, but in general, which are not contributing as much. So what they said is maybe we should sort of like have that at the back of our heads when we're doing any outreach sort of like attempt. that
Right.
we sort of like, yeah, the way, the manner that we approach things, yeah, should be in a way that it doesn't put pressure on people.
Yes.
Yeah, just continuing to make it clear that folks don't have to, yeah, contribute to code or documentation or anything else. Like folks can come to any of these events, especially like the user groups, yeah, and they could just receive knowledge and participate that way, you know.
Exactly. Maybe we could phrase it as in, you know, it's appreciated, but it's not expected in any way.
So actually, here's the most immediate action item I think we could take on that to help that, which is I already suggested in the issue queue. But this seems like an appropriate time to get some quick feedback, which is to change. Right now, we have two primary Zulip channels, Backdrop and the community, which the community is supposed to be like non-Backdrop stuff. But basically, that means if you have a support question, the kind of place we expect you to ask that is in the Backdrop stream. But the Backdrop stream is full of core conversations. And so basically, the person who raised this issue was saying, if I came to the Zulip to ask questions about how to use Backdrop, and I saw all of this internal organizational stuff, I might feel like I'm in the wrong place and not want to engage here. And so I think that there's a fairly straightforward solution to that, which is what they do in the Drupal Slack or channels, which is there is a channel or a stream just for support. And we've avoided, we in the past, we wanted to avoid too many channels or streams because that is confusing to people. But I think, you know, it's also confusing people to get people dropped into a bunch of conversations that they maybe aren't there for, and might dissuade them from, you know, asking their basic support questions. So my recommendation is that we have just a basic support channel or stream in Zulip, and then a Backdrop. I don't know. I think I suggested a name for, well, but I don't know if it's just the Backdrop or if it's.
So would you say that we keep Backdrop just for core things or contrib things specific, and then we have the community chat for things not directly related to Backdrop, and then we have a dedicated support channel, which is, hey, I'm trying to do this, I can't get this to work, and so on.
Yes,
yeah,
that's what I would suggest. And I would suggest by default you land in the support channel. That's where newcomers go, and then if they want to get involved in the other stuff, they join one of the other channels.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable.
That makes sense.
Okay.
We could call the Backdrop channel, the one that's currently Backdrop, even something like core or not core, code. I don't know. We could think about
Actually,
it.
I think what Drupal does is contribute. There's support and there's contribute. And so the contribute is where you talk about core and then actually, maybe not. It's something like that. I think it is contribute. I think, and then they have a different contrib channel as well, but I don't think we don't need that because
maybe a general, because Slack always has a general channel. Maybe the general channel is where everybody just posts ideas, but support is dedicated for things that, don't work. But remember that
we want the default channel to be support, because the people who are most likely to get lost are the people who are coming for support. And if anybody that has more motivation, they're going to find the other things, but somebody just coming from support might not find the support channel if you don't just give it to them.
Backdrop is too general of a term for the stream.
Yeah.
So it could be called support or coding, or, you know, because we have outreach, weekly meetings, and a few other things, leaflet, whatever that is.
Leaflet is a specific contribute module, so it's discussion about specific module. Yeah,
that's a topic, not a stream.
Yeah, I think
so. The backdrop topic itself needs to be broken down into some subtopics.
Yeah.
So the terminology is that Backdrop is a stream. I'm not sure if you subscribe to other streams, Savasri. There's more to that.
Well, I can't. You know, Backdrop has a hashtag in front of it, hash Backdrop. Yes. The other ones don't have a hash in front of them. I don't know what that means.
So the Backdrop is the stream, and the stream is like a container for topics. So all the ones that don't have the hashtag are all topics within the stream. So the backdrop stream includes topics like right now, outreach, weekly meetings, translating config bug, leaflet. Those are all topics in the backdrop stream. So we're talking about creating another stream called support, where people would put support topics. With this backdrop one, frankly, we could leave it what it's called right now and see kind of what it becomes when support is split out, and then name it that. Like we'll
Well,
see.
two things need to be broken out of it, not just support, but core contributions is what right now is filling up that topic called backdrop.
Yes.
Heading is actually more about coding core.
I mean, it's everything right now. It's
Yeah.
meetings, it's core, it's contrib, it's integrations, like Civis CRM is in there. So
Yeah.
right now it's like a mix of everything.
So
And
there's 6 of topics, like
yeah,
over the course of time. So this is, I'm not sure if I'm sharing this for the benefit of people watching the video and for Savastry. This is what it looks like when you dig into a stream, which is Backdrop, and then there's a link that says all stream. And then you see that I'm subscribed to infrastructure, community chat. So there's more streams here, and each stream can have a topic in it.
Okay.
So in the
So the
community chat,
backdrop itself is actually coding. That's what it's being used for.
Right now, the backdrop itself has been used for everything.
for everything,
Yeah.
generic.
Documentation, videos, coding, anything.
Well,
We're gonna break
we
that
was
should,
up.
the
we should
original-
break it out into
Yeah.
topics, permanent topics.
So all
Support,
topics, so all topics are permanent. What happens is that when we started the Zulip, using Zulip as a platform, we needed to have a stream, and Backdrop was the first stream that we ever created. And then as more topics gathered, and we said, hey, we need a separate thing for that, we created different streams which needed to have subtopics in them. So this is how it evolved.
okay.
So in other words, what I'm saying is Backdrop is the default thing that we just named Backdrop. And this is
yeah. And to not change too much on people too fast, I like the idea, like it seems like a support stream really is a need, and making that the default place for folks does seem really appropriate. And maybe leaving the changes at that, like split that out, and then take some time to see how that works. And then we can figure out what else to do with the main backdrop stream, if anything.
Yeah, and keep in mind that that streams can be renamed and topics can be moved between streams. So if we feel that something is appropriate for something else, we can move it around. So yeah.
Good. I think I'm going to just ask around one more for a little more input, but hopefully make that change within a few days.
Running out of time here.
Yeah, and let's get back to Sarvashri. We can. Nate's not here yet, so I'm guessing we'll be able to go over a few minutes if we need to. Sarvashri has been leading an effort to do some work with videos, and we had a great discussion last week. And Sarvashri, do you want to update people?
Yeah. What we're looking at is tutorials that help new people learn Backdrop quickly and easily. And most of the focus has been on moving people from Drupal 7 to Backdrop. And those people all have deep developing experience. They're not new users. They're not beginners. And so if anybody wants to use Backdrop and they're not experienced with Drupal, then they're out of luck, because there's a lot of correlations between Drupal and Backdrop that seem to be self-explanatory to Drupal users, but to new users, they don't make sense. So I started going through, we were looking at how videos were made for Drupal, and looked at how Drupal had created a demonstration site to teach people how to use Drupal. And it was a great idea. So I went to that Drupal site, and I'm going through it still, reading through all of their documentation and clicking on their videos. And they're doing a farmer's market as a demonstration. We can do the same thing. I think that their documentation system is too complex to follow very easily. It needs to be simplified a lot. And the videos, I looked at the strength and weakness of the videos because I have a lot of experience with audio and video generally, studying it and so forth. And there are two people doing the videos that I've seen so far, Amber and and Joe.
Yeah.
And I've noticed two things about their video quality. The audio for Joe, he's a little bit too far from the mic, and so you get a lot of reflections from the room that creates reverberation. You don't notice it until you watch a video that doesn't have that. Now, Amber's videos don't have those reflections, but she's too close to the mic. And what's happening with her is she's getting a lot of plosives, that is, the P's and the B's explode into the microphone and create a shock wave. And then her voice is very sort of mellowed in the sense that it's almost like she's talking, holding her nose. And so there aren't enough high frequencies. The equalization on her videos is wrong. So when you get used to listening to really good videos, professional videos, two things that they do is they have you speak within 12 inches of the mic and not closer than 6 inches, basically 12 inches from a mic. And you have to do equalization on that person because their voice may be a little different than other people. So you can't use the same equalization. And you need to play it back on a good system so you know that you're hearing what they really recorded. And if you do that, then you find out that that things are not as they seem. For instance, I have a really great mic right here. I'll just put it over in that thing. This is a really great mic. It's a condenser microphone. It's an expensive microphone. It will pick up everything from a half mile away, trucks driving down the road with low frequencies under 30 cycles a second. It'll pick all that up. I can't use that mic unless I run it through some kind of filter so that I'm filtering out all of the lows so I'm not getting the trucks driving down the road. So when you learn a little bit about audio, it makes a huge, huge difference in the quality of making a video. And so what people usually do for making these tutorial videos, they might just do a tutorial for themselves and record it off the cuff. See what kind of things they're covering and then note what they're missing. Then create an outline of what they want to cover in the real video and have that outline handy to the side, and then record the audio for that outline. And then after you have the audio, then you can come back, paste that audio into a video program, and then start grabbing screenshots or keynote, like Joe is doing, turn the cube, basically a keynote switch. And then you get a really good audio with really good video by piecing it together, one on top of the other. And that is the best way to create videos. So that's what I've discovered so far. And so those of you who want to experiment with this, just experiment with creating an audio and seeing what you have to do to make that audio good. If you use something like you're using a Mac, you can use GarageBand to create your audio. And GarageBand has all kinds of filters, a low cut filter that you can put in there. Also, you can have it silence out any background noise by putting a threshold for where you want it to drop into pure silence. So you don't even have hiss or hum or anything else in that. So maybe if people are interested, I could show you how that's done sometime.
can I ask you a question, Sarvashri? You've said that in their doc. So quickly, Jack, I think Gregory was here last week. So Jack, if you weren't, we had an informal discussion. It was outside our regular meetings, and we talked about. Sarvashri's been talking about creating a video series to really help build a website, and we talked about the whole Drupal 8 user guide that was created by the Drupalize Me folks, and it is a combination of text and video, and it is all open source. And I had thought about this before, but we spent some time talking about last week whether or not I started thinking about whether or not we couldn't just fork their user guide and start to edit it to be backdrop specific. There's a little bit of like, would we offend? I mean, first of all, they're all of their words say this is open source. You can do anything you want with it, even if it's commercial. So it is intended for people to do what they want with. As long as people give credit. I feel like we know the folks involved in that project and they would be supportive. So, but one, is it a good idea? And two, so I started to look a little bit at like how easy, technically, how we would fork it. And they are using a tool, and I don't remember the name off top of it, but it's a fairly, they're doing it in a special markup language. It's not regular Markdown. It's a special language, and then they run it through a compiler, which creates HTML, PDF, ebook, all these different formats, which is really nice, except that in order to work on this, you need to write in this Markdown or this special markup language. And two, in order to compile it, you need, but everyone wouldn't have to do that. Most editors could just use the text. But anybody who, in order to use it, we'd have to run it through this compiler. And I don't know if it's worth that. But my question for Sarvashri is, you said that their structure was a little bit confusing to you. I mean, but was there besides the videos, other parts of it that you liked? Did you like that mix? Go ahead, Jack.
Sorry, one comment before, because I have to run.
Yep.
The main flag for me here would be capacity to actually do something like this. Like, so, Tim, you've been holding down so much of the outreach stuff, but you're also on PMC, and PMC, we're behind on ours, so it's like a great plan, but it sounds like something that would have to be like, someone else would need to be the point person. That's my main flag for that, but because I know Drupalize Me started at Lullabot, and they had all sorts of time and oh, hello, Nate. Speaking of Lullabot.
Yeah, having made an entire series of Drupal DVDs at one point. DVDs, yes, that's right. Yeah. That's how old that was.
So, Sarvashri, you may not know this, but Nate, the Drupalize Me folks, Amber and Joe, that is sort of a sister company to the company that Nate works for. So he knows them very well, and was involved early on in making similar videos like that.
Yeah, I actually learned from Nate and Jeff. Was it Jeff Eaton?
Hi, everyone.
By Jack.
Hi. I'm very much aware of that capacity problem, but I've been trying to facilitate Sarvashri's energy and enthusiasm for this project and help to provide some feedback. And I think this is one way that this could go. But yes, we need people and people time to work on it.
Oh, I'm good at
wrap up this meeting.
I'm good at writing, but I don't have all the content.
Yeah.
I don't know how things work.
The only thing that I want to comment, and I pointed that out before, is that we don't have people raising barriers, as in how professional the videos should be, how the equipment should be used. What they do is sort of like it's demotivating people from actually doing it. And I'm talking from experience because I was asked to also produce videos for the company that I work for, training videos, which are also open source, which are also out there. And it's a tedious task. And I was put through, of course, some standards, like you have to record in 4K quality and so on and so forth. But then I don't have a dedicated room at the house where I'm at. And as Sarvashri mentioned before, there might be a truck passing by, which of course will come into the audio. And unfortunately, I don't have the equipment that would filter that out or the knowledge to do it. So this raises barriers for me. So I would say that, yes, that's the goal, and we can document that somewhere that it should be 4K, the audio quality should be this and that.
Yeah.
We should use that tone or that language, but it shouldn't be a blocker because some sort of video is better than no video at all.
Well,
That-
you do have the equipment. If you have a Macintosh, you have GarageBand. And if you have a headset mic, you can basically, nobody would hear anything else. You can set the threshold to cut out anything except your voice, and it would sound so clean and nobody would know the difference.
Cool, that's good.
We have to end this meeting.